So welcome back. This is yet another video that's not woodworking, but I got, it's kind of like woodworking because what we're gonna do here is we're gonna make some charcoal. So one of the things, if you're a woodworker, you know you have a lot of scrap pieces, especially the kind of woodworking that I'm into where I do a lot of sawmilling and then use that lumber to make things with. When I'm breaking down the lumber into usable lumber, I get a lot of knots and then ends where the planer is sniped or made the area uneven. So I put all those pieces into a bin and then I use that to make charcoal. So, you know, a lot of people say charcoal is cheap, it's not worth it to take the time, but really it's not a big time sink, and I'm big on free things, especially when I would have to buy the thing that was going to cost me money anyway. So what we're doing, like I said, is making charcoal because not just it's cheap, but because I like making things that I don't have to pay money for. So this here is an example of a piece that I would not use in my woodworking. You can see this whole piece, this is red oak here. This whole piece is nothing but a big huge knot with a big bark inclusion there. So this piece, yeah, you could probably use it for something, but you know, I've got a lot of pieces like this. I've got a whole trash bin that's full of these. It's a 13-gallon trash can that's full of, it's a mixture between red oak, hickory, and cherry. I found that once you make charcoal out of it, really doesn't matter what kind of wood it is, as long as it's a hardwood. Wouldn't use walnut. Walnut has some tendencies to make you very allergic reaction. Another thing to note is this is a piece that I would not use. This is a piece of hickory. It's got a ton of bark over here. The bark does tend to make it bitter and it doesn't make good charcoal. So you really want as little bark as possible. You could also use this with firewood that you found as scraps. You can use anything as long as it doesn't have a lot of bark, and as long as it's hardwood. You wouldn't want to use a pine or a cedar, or like I was saying, a walnut. So with that, we've got a clean egg. You could use any type of charcoal grilling grill. And so yeah, here we're gonna bring you in and show you kind of the setup inside. So as you can see, we've got a really clean egg. You wanna do this before you're ready, because this charcoal, you're gonna make it and you're gonna leave it in here and you're gonna cook with it. So Brody's gonna help me put this wood into the container. You can pretty well fill this all the way up on the egg to this top ring here, because it's gonna shrink a little bit, and then that's about how much charcoal I'll put in there anyway, because I like to fill it all the way up and then use all the charcoal and then make more. So let's put this wood in here, bud. So the key here is, like I was mentioning, that it's mounded up, and then you kind of want to try and keep from pieces touching right over. You want to have a lot of airflow in there, because anywhere that there's two pieces of wood touching, it's going to still continue to, it's not going to make fully charcoal. So with that, we're going to get this fire started with my normal fire starter that I've got, and then we're going to let it burn off, and we'll come back once it starts. So you can see we got a good fire going now. I mean, you know, if you were a little bit more detail oriented than I was, you would want to start the fire at the bottom, but it's all relative here. So at any rate, we're gonna close the lid on this. And the key is here that you want it to be smoking a lot. So all that, there's only so much smoke that wood can provide. Once all the smoke's gone, it's going to leave charcoal. So the key here is that we don't want an actual fire going. We just want the heat to be cooking the smoke off, if that makes sense. So really, if you're doing this right, you'll have a ton of smoke, but it'll only be around 400 degrees, I think. I'll come back. It's been, you know, gosh, 4 or 5 months since I've made charcoal. I don't really remember what temperature setting I had it at last time, but you know, use the flue on the top and bottom to monitor your temperature. if you get over 600 degrees, you're definitely burning the wood instead of cooking off all the smoke. So this process right here is going to take a couple hours. So we'll come back. It's about 4 o'clock now. I'll update everybody. I'll update you when I get done. This is an example here of the amount of smoke that's going to be coming out. It's very hazy. So just keep in mind that it's going to be a lot of smoke, but that's what you're really trying to do. We're up at about 600 degrees. So I'm going to try and back it down just a little bit, maybe more about 500, and that's going to do it.
Welcome back.
So at this point, it's 7:15. So about 2 or 3 hours later. And at this point, we've got the grill. We've turned it off, and it's down to 350. We've got charcoal. We quit smoking about 15 minutes ago. And the key here is what you see inside of there is all charcoal. If you were to break those pieces of wood open, you would just see black wood, no still raw wood that we put in there, and it's ready to cook wood on. So when it was up to about between 550 and 600, we were getting a lot of smoke. And then when it stopped smoking, we closed the top, closed the bottom, and we let it cool off. So it will continue cooling tonight. We're not going to cook on it tonight, but as you can see, we did shrink down a good bit, because right there is about where the ring stops, and about here is where the top of the ring is. So we can put our grate on top of that and we won't be on top of charcoal. So yeah, this is an entire bag essentially of free charcoal. And like I was mentioning, I'm not really after the search of free, because this would be about $8 or $10 worth of charcoal. The key here is that I didn't have to go to the store to get those $8 or $10 worth of charcoal, because $8 or $10, not a big deal, but running to the store definitely is. So with that, Brody, what do you say? You know, maybe thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Maybe you learned something today. Maybe you learned something. Is that a puffed Cheeto?
Yes.
Did you enjoy making this video?
Yes.
That's the key. All right. See you later.